Westworld Awakening is a VR game based on the HBO TV series, which is based on the movie from the 70s. It released in 2019 and it hasn't sold well. Not because it's bad, it's got very positive reviews on Steam with over 300 people reviewing it. It's because it's stealth released with no marketing and is only available on PC. They really should bring it to PSVR 2. The Quest 2 won't be able to run this natively unfortunately because it's got actual graphics. You play as a host, which if you don't know what that means, then the series takes place in a fake world in the Wild West, full of robots that look just like humans. They've been programmed to act like someone from that time period, then rich people come to Westworld to live out their fantasies, whether that's smashing someone's face in or doing some smashing of a different kind. You go to a large house to meet a lawyer, but find him dead, and have to deal with a murderer who is programmed to hunt you down. This is a very narrative-driven game. It's very linear, with the gameplay consisting of finding ways to open doors and escaping from Hank, the guy who's trying to kill you. You've got to look at it like an interactive movie, or being in an episode of the show that lasts about 4 hours. You get a tablet in the game, which you can use to open doors, as well as scan things like power cables to find breaker switches, or you can see where Hank is when he's stalking you. He isn't with you all the time though, so it's not constantly hiding under tables, and overall the pacing is good. You've got someone talking to you throughout the game, guiding you, and you end up in the real world, and as a host who is programmed to be from the Wild West, you've got no idea what's going on and you need guidance.
Who is this? Where's Lyle?
Ma'am, my name is Kate. If you could tell me where I am...
The story is very good, and it does a good job of making you feel like the host trying to figure out what is happening and where you are. The visuals and production values are AAA. Some of the best you're going to see in a native VR game, and you come across lots of NPCs, whether they're other hosts like you, or guests who are paying to be there.
Don't worry, Miss Wesson. You'll always be safe while I'm around.
They're all motion captured, and they look incredible stood right in front of you. The facial animations are especially impressive. There are sections where you get to adjust the emotions of hosts, and you get to watch them play out a scene, and then adjust things, which changes the way they behave. Watching very lifelike characters pause and change like this is very impressive to see in VR. The attention to detail is very high, with visual stuff like this running water on the window in this house, or the way that the smoke looks through this frosted glass. Actually, when I saw this smoke, it immediately reminded me that the developer who made this game are actually making an Aliens game which will be playable in and out of VR. If they can have this attention to detail, level of visuals and atmosphere in that game, it could actually be very good. The game also has incredible attention to detail for the lore of the show. HBO were very hands-on with this, and they were involved in writing the story, designing the sets and costumes in the game, and it shows. I played this the first time before I actually watched the shows. I played it again after watching them, and it really helps me enjoy the game more, as I found myself soaking up all the details and looking around much more than the first time. Westworld Awakening is a great game for those who like eye candy with a good story. People who enjoyed games like Lone Echo are going to enjoy it. If you just want raw gameplay, then this is probably not for you. Whilst I've got you here, I want to also recommend some other VR games that I feel went under the radar. District Steel is a recent release on Steam, which feels like the complete opposite of Westworld. Whilst Westworld is focused on the story and high-end visuals, District Steel is all about the gameplay. Not that it looks bad. In fact, it looks pretty good in the headset with some really nice lighting and material effects like the reflections on the metal surfaces. But this is a VR shooter that isn't afraid to push you, and it has a really addictive primary gameplay loop with a rocket arm that you can use to boost up into the air or just straight forward along the ground. You also have slow motion which you can activate, which has some incredibly cool effects, and it's easily the best looking slow-mo I've seen in any VR game. When you pair them together, jumping in the air, turning on slow motion, taking out some enemies, and then you turn it off and watch the carnage, it's incredibly addictive. The slow motion isn't just tacked on either like in some games. Built around the gameplay and the level design with a limited amount that you either refill using energy canisters or by killing bad guys, and after a while, you get the hang of chaining kills together so you can stay in slow motion for longer. The game would be very tough without slow motion. You will need to use it, and you'll actually want to use it because of how good it feels. The game is currently in early access, so bear that in mind, and you might want to wait for the final version. Some things feel a little dated, like the way the magazines just hover above your hands, but overall it works and it doesn't feel clunky or get in the way of the gameplay. It took me about 4 hours to finish what's there, and you're left with a to be continued message. I actually got the game free thanks to the developer, but knowing how good it was and how much fun it was, I would have actually bought it, and I will happily start from the beginning and play through it all over again when the final version is out. Vertigo Remastered is one of those games that should be talked about with the likes of Walking Dead Saints and Sinners and Bone Lab. It's one of the best VR games available if you like single player story shooters, and whilst it's not the best looking VR game ever made, it still looks good when you're in the game world and it's got its own identity and charm. It's incredibly well paced, constantly giving you new weapons and taking you to new places, with some really fun boss fights. It's not the longest game, just like the others at about 4 hours, but what's there is quality. The sequel's also coming out very soon, or it may even be out if you're watching this video later, and it looks like they're taking the game to new heights, so make sure to play the first game, then immediately check out Vertigo 2 for lots of fun times. The last game I'll mention is similar to Westworld, that it's more about the visuals and story than the gameplay. Robinson the Journey is an older VR game from 2017 by Crytek, and it's AAA quality with very high-end visuals, and it's got dinosaurs in it. You get to see Brachiosaurus, T-Rex, Velociraptors, Pterodactyls, and they're all in incredible detail with high-end animations, and it's truly spectacular. The controls are a bit old and dated, and it's more of a walking simulator with some light puzzles and climbing, but it's worth it, especially if you can pick it up on a sale. One recommendation I'll give for this game is to turn the SuperSampling in-game up to 2.0. It defaults to 1, and it looks very blurry. You also might want to mess with anti-aliasing settings. And that's it. Leave your own recommendations in the comments. If you liked the video and want to support the channel, then I do have a Patreon, or you can use YouTube memberships, which really helps, and tiers start from just as little as $1 per month. Thank you very much for your support.